Good morning, Zoro. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Errol. How are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Man, I got to tell you what, kudos to you for writing a book about your mother, because so much history of our family is lost for those that are waiting for us to arrive in the future. And just for you to write this story is just amazing. It's a gift to tomorrow.
Well, thank you. You're the first one who's ever mentioned anything like that. That's really sweet. And I think, one of the reasons why I wrote it was I was like, hey, when I'm gone, I want something to live on that told of this incredible story of this mother, of this family. And I could think of nothing better than to offer the world this hope and encouragement through this story. And it'll speak to subsequent generations, but it will also be a legacy for my own children, great grandchildren. And, we all are affected by the power of words, right? We read books from 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 100 years ago, and they still affect us because those words come to life on the page. So thanks for saying that, because it was really in my heart to, like, how can I bring this woman, my mother, to life on the pages of this book? And the people who have read it have told me, my God, I wish I could have met Maria. She is so alive in this book. So it's a cool thing to bring someone to life in the pages of a book, and especially somebody as special as my mother was.
Yeah, because in everyday conversation, sure, you can pick up on the pitch, volume, and tone of someone's voice as they share that story. But when you've got that book right there in front of you, you can go back and read the paragraph and really embrace the emotion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I tell people, as a drummer, as a writer, as a speaker, as an artist, we only have one job as an artist, and all of us have the same job. It's one job, and that is to elicit emotion, make people feel something deeply. And I try to do that with my drumming, and I try to do that with my writing, because my only job as a writer is to make you, make you feel love, and make you feel hate, and make you feel anger, and make you feel hopeful. That's what makes us feel alive, is the emotion. And so my mother was a very emotional person, a very heartfelt person, very tender, and I call her the most soulful person I ever knew. So I wanted to reflect that in my writing, which came through because I'm her son, and she was the biggest influence in my life. So it really has. My publisher, Blackstone, when I was done doing the audiobook, the gal who produced it, she goes, I've done 1,500 audiobooks this year or something. She goes, your book has more heart than any other book I've ever worked on. And I wanted that to be my legacy, that this book will touch your heart, because my mother had a big heart. And so that was my influence. So it was, but I worked on it so hard, Errol. I worked on it for 15 years. Wow. And I read over 300 books to study the craft of writing memoir, because I had written other books, but they were motivational books. Yep. But this is a personal story, and it had to have dialogue and scene and setting and character arc and so many things that made it, cinematic. And but it was 15 years, and I'm talking a really hard work. But then I started a diary at the age of 10 that I kept writing into my 20s. So it has diary entries from a 10-year-old kid, 14, 12, 16, 18. And some of them will make you laugh your butt off. Yep. Some will make you cry. Some will get you angry. But I never wrote those thinking I'm going to have a memoir. I was just a kid writing my feelings. Yep. But, so I've really been working on it my whole life, to be honest.
The drummer of Anthrax says that the reason why he's a drummer is because drummers hear their mother's heartbeat their entire life. Do you believe in that?
I think there's something to that. I mean, because the heartbeat is like the original drum, right? It just has this pounding. I wrote something, I never end up using it in the book, but I wrote this very beautiful thing kind of along those lines. It got to be a little too poetic and too, it didn't kind of fit with the theme of the book, but I kept it aside. But it was something like, before I was born, my mother was giving me the greatest gift of all. She was teaching me the gift of rhythm. She gave me the gift, and she gave me the gift of rhythm. She taught me the rhythm of battle in life, because we had lots to overcome in my childhood. But through her example, she was showing me how to use the rhythm of life and how to battle myself out of, at one point we lived in a 1962 Chevy Nova. So I went from that to I went from the slums to the spotlight to playing the stages of the world with this woman's help, with her vision, with her faith. And I just wish she would have been around to see it. She would have been so thrilled. And it's funny. I just wrote about what I felt to write about, but it's amazing when I'm doing interviews and talking with people that people are very touched and moved that I would write a book to honor my mother.
Yeah.
And I kind of just thought it was just totally just natural. Like I just thought, well, wouldn't everybody do that? Like, I didn't even think it was something. But when I look back on like Hollywood, there's so many people that never give thanks to the people who helped them make it.
Right.
There's so many arrogant people and so many people, it's all about them. And I go, my acknowledgments in the book is longer than in most books I've ever seen, because I want to acknowledge all the people that were a part of the journey that helped me, because it's no fun to arrive at the top of a mountaintop without sharing it with the people who believed in you.
Yeah.
And in my case, my mother believed in me, and but I wrote it for all the mothers of the world, all the fathers of the world, and all the dreamers of the world, to inspire them. It's really not a book, like I would say, for drummers, although it does talk about my drumming and career. It's a book for dreamers and people who love hopeful stories, people who love underdog stories, people who love those movies like Rocky, Rudy, The Blind Side, Miracle. It's people who love that kind, and it's that kind of story, but about a kid who wants to play the drums.
Yeah. Coming from a family of 7, though, I mean, in sharing your mother's story, because this is what stops me from writing a story about my mother, and I've been a daily writer for 30 years, and it's my interpretation of who I think my mother is. And how did you move beyond that so that your brothers and sisters go, Zoro, I don't know, I have a different story?
That is a great, great, great question. Very, very deep question, Arrow. And yes, here's the thing. In writing about anybody that we all knew mutually, they've done these experiments in class and in writing class where an incident would happen and every writer would record what they just saw, they just saw like 30 seconds ago or a minute ago. And it's amazing how everyone wrote something different. Like they just saw the event. And so it's not like, oh, well, this was 20 years ago, I can't remember. They saw the event, and yet they all had a different interpretation of what they just saw. So if that's what happens like immediately, what do you think happens over time?
Yep.
So I resigned myself to the fact that this is the mother that I knew. Now I'm a father. My wife and I have 2 children, 24 and 22. And, no parent is the same at any season in their life. So if you have 7 children, and they're 16 years apart from oldest to youngest, everyone had a different mother, even though it was the same mother.
Yep.
Because that mother is different from the first child and the second, from what they learned, the third. And of course, every person is evolving, right? Every person is changing, whether they want to or not. So I just accepted the fact that my relationship with my mother was different than every other of the other 6 siblings, because of her being different during different seasons of her life. Yet the essence of who she was, they would all agree with, but the personal, like what I knew her to be, I just had to accept that this was my mother. It's also your mother. This is how I knew her, because every parent has kind of a different relationship with their kids, because also every kid is different, and so, hey, one kid might be a real troublemaker and, the mother and father's doing the best they can. And one kid is just like the compliant, easy, loving kid, and that mother has an easier relationship with them. It's just it's human beings, right? So I would say to you or to anybody, if you're going to write about people you can't worry about what other people think, and you have to just go, this is how I saw her. This is the person that I knew, and there's going to be, and with all my siblings, when you have 7 of them total. We were a really tight-knit family. For a period of time, we were unbreakable because all we had was each other. And then you go on in life, and then you're no longer that tight, close family, living under the same roof. I mean, you may be still close, but I said for a window of time, this is who we were. And it really is a beautiful story. Maria's Scarf, my memoir, I've had many, many people read the advance copy, and while I was writing it, and all of them would say, I fell in love with your mother, Maria, and I fell in love with your family. Here's a family fighting and helping each other survive. For instance, when I was in the 4th grade, I wanted to enter a talent show. I had never played the drums, but I really wanted to play the drums bad. But I just pretended like I was a drummer to this band that was putting a band together. And every time they asked me where my drums were, I said, well, they're in the shop getting fixed. So the night of the talent show, I didn't have the drums, and so I just said, "Oh yeah, my mother went down to get them, but then the shop was closed, so I'm just going to play with this box." So my brothers and sisters stayed up all night. We got a big like Maytag refrigerator, washer and dryer kind of box, tilted it on its side, and we drew a drum set on it and used gold glitter for the cymbals. And they worked really hard to create something for me to play on that talent show. And I've had people that said they wept during that story because it was so beautiful. The brothers and sisters trying to help their little brother, live his dream. And so there's some beautiful, beautiful stories of this family doing whatever they had to help each other survive. And everybody has family. So the book has this universal theme of love and hope and perseverance and overcoming through these beautiful stories. So, and I wrote about that period of our life when we were all together as one family and how it all helped me, the kid, live his dream. Wow. So it's very honoring to all of my siblings. And even though they might not agree with every single thing as far as, my interpretation of our mother, this is who I knew. But they're all going to go, yeah, that was my mother. It's funny, we're a weird family. We always called her either my mother or your mother.
Yes.
We never said mom. We just said, like, your mother's calling you. Or my mother's calling. and we'd have friends over and they'd go, hold on, is she your mother and not hers? Or I'm like, no, it's all of our mothers. And we never really could figure out why we always, I think because we didn't have a dad, we always used her in the possessive. My mother wants to talk to you. Or, your mother's calling you. but I never met another family that did that. And everybody, you go to a normal family, they would say, mom wants to talk to you. But we just had this thing. It was like, your mother, my mother. It was our mother.
Wow, I can so relate with that because as my mother aged, my sister became more protective of her mother, and she wouldn't let me near my mother. And so I can relate with your story so well.
That is funny. It's just family. And, so the book was written to inspire people, really, and really I wrote it for mothers, really, to inspire them that no matter how desperate the circumstances are, if you just speak life to your children and speak the right things and fill their head with visions and dreams, and even though you'll do everything imperfect and you'll make mistakes, in the end, love conquers all. And I have not found anything on this planet that is more powerful than the love of a mother.
Yep.
It is the most powerful force on the earth. And it can, and so I want to say to all the mothers out there and the fathers, don't give up when it looks like your kids aren't going to turn out right. Just keep speaking the right things, keep giving them words of life and words of affirmation, and keep teaching them to dream.
Yep.
And you're not doing it based on your current reality. That's what dreaming and vision is to see past your current reality and to go, and so people who have read the book, the 4 H's that they would give the book, they would say it is heartwarming,
yep.
It's heartbreaking, it's hilarious. There are so many funny stories that will have you cracking up. But in the end, you leave hopeful. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write something that would stir people's hope and imagination. And there's nothing more powerful in the world than story. The power of story is everything. That's why the power of words is everything. That's why we are shaped by the words we hear or listen to, and either through movies, books, films, people around us. And I wanted something that would touch humanity and honor this life that she led, that she was this incredibly soulful person. And it doesn't. And you don't have to never count yourself out. When I signed the book, I always sign it. Never give up.
Oh,
I can't think of 3 more important words to impart to somebody.
Yeah.
Never give up. That can mean different things to them at different seasons. That could mean don't give up as a parent, or don't give up on your dream. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your spouse, or but never give up. I think that's the most important thing I could say to somebody, because we all feel like giving up, right, Arrow?
Yep. Always. Your mother's handwriting. Let me ask you a question about that, only because just the other day I picked up a letter that my mother wrote, and she was inducted into the Bowlers Hall of Fame, and she goes, "Do you recognize anybody on this page?" But it was her cursive writing that really captured my imagination. Do you have any of your mother's writing?
I do. And, my mother was from Mexico, so her first native language was Spanish, but she learned English from when she was a little girl, so she spoke perfect English as well. And she had this, I have many different things. In fact, I have the very last, she had sent me a card, like she was very sentimental, so she'd always send me, not just a birthday card or Christmas card, but sometimes she would just send me a card, like a thank you card. Thank you for being a wonderful son. Thank you for helping to take care of me.
Oh,
Thank you. So when I found out she passed, I had just flown with Lenny Kravitz from Cologne, Germany, to Los Angeles to play on the American Music Awards,
oh wow.
and I had gotten the car, and my wife called me, and this was a surprise. I didn't know my mother. She was ill at that age of her life, but not like I thought she was going to die or anything.
Hmm.
So she called me and said, "Have you talked to anyone in your family?" And I got really, my stomach started getting in knots. I said, "No." She goes, "Well, your mother," and my mother was a Christian woman, so she said,
Yes.
"Your mother went home to be with the Lord last night." Oh my God, I lost it. I was like, and the last conversation I had with her was at the airport on my way to this European tour a couple weeks earlier for a fast television show tour. But anyway, when I got home that night, I had to. And Lenny was there by my side, and it was a beautiful thing. He told his manager to stop all his press interviews. He's going to go home to be with Zoro. Zoro needs me, and it was this beautiful brotherhood bonding thing because his
Oh,
mother passed, and I was there for him. And then so he came home with me, and when I got to my desk, there was a manila envelope with her writing on it, and it was the last card she ever sent me. And man, I was trembling
oh
to
my
open it
God.
up, and my eyes were filled with tears as I read, her last words. And it was so like hard, it was so powerful. But I saved that, and I transcribed that, and that's in the book. I share the words that she wrote to me in her last card. So yes, I have things with her handwriting, and and she had, this cursive writing that was not the easiest to read, but once you got the code,
That's
once
it.
you broke the code, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's when she, but I've saved many different things from her. And then, speaking of handwriting, which is kind of interesting, the cover of the book, it says Maria's scarf,
Hmm.
and then it says Zorro, and that's actually my handwriting.
Oh,
As a kid, there's a little decree that I wrote over myself, like a little vision statement. And I was just like 15 years old. I didn't know what my mother had taught me to dream. And so I wrote this vision statement, and I called it My Future. And I wrote 5 things on it. And one of the things I wrote is, "You in later years in life will change your own life completely." Like, I didn't even know where I had the insight to even think. But that's, and then the funniest one in there, because I did a lot of shenanigans when I was a kid. I was kind of a street hustler. And the second thing I wrote was, "You are basically honest." Like, I'm like, what kid writes "you are basically honest" unless you're a little dishonest?
yeah.
You would convince yourself you're. But I wrote in there too. I wrote, "One day you will make it in show business and you'll succeed as a drummer." So Blackstone, my publisher, they took that note and they took my lettering in there, and they
Oh,
used the lettering for Maria's scarf. It is my actual own font because it's my own writing, which I thought was really cool. But I still have that piece of paper from when I was 15, and I'm 61. And we put that inside the book. We showed the picture of the paper because what that will do, it's what my mother taught me to do, right? Is to dream and to envision things. And so that will help other parents and other kids reading the book going, I need to write something about
yep.
my dream for my life. And almost everything on that thing came to pass that I wrote. And so they made that the cover, and you'll see that writing behind the main pictures on the book is that little scribbling, and that's that note that they made the whole cover. So it's just, I don't know, it's a very precious book. People are going to cry.
Yep.
People are going to laugh. People are going to just feel alive. Uh,
Wow.
but it was fun.
Zoro, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. I love where your heart is. I love where you are planting your thoughts and growing forward. And we're not done. I just know the universe will bring us back together again.
Man, thank you for that. This was such a fun interview, Arrow. It's been an honor and a privilege, and I look forward to doing it again. Yeah, reach out to me because I would love to continue this conversation. You were great.
Will you be brilliant today, okay, sir?
All right. Thank you, Errol. Take care and God bless.